Welcome to Global Education Unpacked, the podcast where we explore how global learning comes alive in college classrooms. I am your host, Marie Lapidus, and today I am joined by Professor Kathleen Reynolds from the ESL and Linguistics Department at Harper College. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, she teaches academic reading and writing, yes, as well as linguistics, and serves as an advisor for the International Students Club, one of the largest and most active on campus. We'll talk about her recent study abroad experience in Costa Rica with 100,000 strong in the Americas, her virtual exchange work with UNAC, is that how you say it? UNAC, in Chiapas, right? Mexico, and how international students make our campus stronger, more connected, and more globally aware. So, Kathleen, first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a faculty member in the ESL and Linguistics Department here at Harper. I've been teaching ESL for probably about 25 years.
Oh my God, it always gives away our age.
That's right. I know. I tell my students since I was a small child, I've been teaching ESL. So I started teaching almost right after college, and I used to work in Albany Park Community Center, which is in Chicago. And it's at the time, it was one of the 3 most diverse zip codes in the United States.
Wow.
So it had a lot of immigrants and refugees and a lot of people who needed to learn English. And I was an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer there for 1 year, which was really cool. And then I got hired and I stayed there. And after working there, teaching ESL for a few years, I decided maybe I should really know what I was doing. So I went back to UIC and I got my master's degree in TESOL. And I've been at Harper since 2010, teaching in our academic English as a second language reading and writing courses. We also have conversation, academic communication skills, and all of our courses are designed, most of our courses are designed for students who are trying to go to Harper, but they need a little bit more academic English preparation before they enroll in some of the college classes at Harper College.
And so recently, what type of students have those been? Are they like first gen, or are they immigrants? Are they refugees? Who's coming to these classes right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's something that's always changing. So over the years, as in ESL, in our field as professionals, we always see the changes in the world that are happening in our local community, in our global community. So in our ESL department, we have a bunch of different populations. We have some students who are F1 students, who have an international student visa.
Okay.
So, Harper has more than 100 international students per semester. Some of them don't need to take the ESL classes because they already know English, and some of them do. Our other students are immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers. I mean, most people who need to practice English came to the United States as adults or as teenagers, late teenagers, to be able to need to improve their English a little more before going to college.
My brother came, he was 17, turning 18 or whatever, and went to college. And, my parents, I remember going to ESL classes as well. I mean, for me, they just shoved me into school, and we had ESL classes in school.
Yeah.
And there was such a huge Russian or ex-Soviet refugee population that we had a whole classroom of us from the former Soviet Union in the ESL classes.
And did they have a bilingual teacher then?
We had
teacher's aide maybe, or?
We had a bilingual teacher, so she was American, so she had quite an accent in Russian. And then they had a Russian aide, a woman who was a Russian aide. It was interesting. It was interesting to go through that, and I'd get pulled out of class to go for ES because I would sit in class. I didn't even know what.
So you remember pretty well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
and I think that's happening in some of the districts in Harper. So with the public schools, if they have above a certain percentage of students from one language background, then they are required to try to do bilingual support.
Yeah.
So I think they do have Russian and Ukrainian language a lot in the schools in Harper, in some schools in Harper's district right now, because that's a lot of the people who we're seeing come right now.
Right.
Do speak either Ukrainian or Russian. Russian being from Russia or from Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan,
Absolutely.
like all the Central Asian republics. So that's sort of like a growing population that I think we're seeing in our area, in our district. And it changes a lot, but that is a new change. Like even a lot of ESL professionals, we have we have two English language programs at Harper too, because English as a second language is also taught in the adult education development department. And those are grant-funded classes. Those are free classes that are in the community to serve people who are at a beginning level, who are looking for support with English to start working or integrate in the community in other ways. So they're also, see some of the same population. And most teachers are like, 25 years in this field, and I've never taught students from some of these countries, and now we do it. That's how we learn everything, is from them, from our students.
Absolutely.
So.
All right. So you advise one of the largest clubs on campus, the International Students Club. What makes the group so special, and how did you get involved in that?
Sure. So when I started at Harper, 15 years ago, it was advised, this club was advised by Alice Roberts, one of our faculty members. But it's older than that. So the club is, I'm sure, probably at least 20 or 25 years old. And I think international students is almost a misnomer of our name, because it's not only the students with the F1 international student visa who are members. It's really a club that's open to everyone at Harper, every student at Harper who's interested in global or international issues. So in that club, we do have a lot of students who are first generation, being like their parents are immigrants. We do have some of the international students and students from other countries, visiting students. So I think when the club started, it was focused more on ESL and on providing another opportunity for some of the ESL students to practice their language skills and practice speaking English and everything like that. Partly because of the interest in younger, maybe more traditional age students who are not necessarily ESL students. More of our Harper population really cares about international topics. They want to meet people from other countries. Maybe they want to share their own culture or their family's cultural background a little more. There's so much more interest in that now that really the club has become much bigger because of that interest and that expansion of the population. So I think part of why the club is so special is because people do have that common shared interest, that they're open to learning about other cultures, that they want to share and learn from others. A lot of people want to make friends. That's what I also see with International Students Club. Like, people are really seeking a group, like a home, a place where they can bring their whole self and meet others. Yeah, so that's what I think makes it special.
So how long have you been involved with it? And what do you, give me the best moment that you've ever had with international, some kind of, or something super that happened and you were like, wow, I'm so glad I'm here with these students.
I mean, I almost have that every single week. So I've been the advisor. It was before the pandemic. So I think it was 27 in our department. There are just absolutely so many moments that I have that feel like that, because it could be celebrating. So, for example, we have certain traditions, and I think a lot of clubs have that, certain things that we do every year. So one thing that we've been doing every year was a Halloween party. So for some students that was new, because of the U.S. I mean, now I think actually Halloween is spreading around the world, to be honest with you. It used to be more definitely spreading, but for some people still it's kind of a new thing to dress up, to do some of the traditional activities. But one thing that's cool is, we started celebrating right after the pandemic. I think it was 21 or 22. We started celebrating Diwali, the Indian festival, in the fall. Now that's become a tradition. So that's something that now we have the materials that we need to run this celebration, and rangoli, and this powder that we put on the tables to make displays, and diyas, these little lanterns that we paint, and that we're learning and gaining those new traditions. So when I think about that each year, I think about, for example, for Diwali, I think about the student who started the Diwali celebration at Harper College, who's like, yeah, we should really do this, and this would be great, and now we're doing it as a regular activity, and people count on it, and people learn about it. We also, every year, we have a party at the end of the year where everybody tells like what their next steps are. So we celebrate our graduates who are transferring and going to other universities, but some of our students are also returning to their country or moving somewhere else because of they kind of have a global lifestyle, I guess. That's also always a very powerful moment because I sort of remember like this is what Harper is for. It's not only just for those students who are graduating and leaving and going to transfer and following this kind of traditional path. It's a very meaningful experience, too, for those people who come here and study and improve their English for 1 or 2 years and then go back to their country. You know, they're always influenced by Harper for the rest of their life as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, whatever there is to celebrate, we should celebrate. Like, it doesn't matter whose it is. Like, if there's a chance for celebration, we as a human species should be just celebrating because what else have we got? Like, let's just do all the celebrations.
well, sometimes I feel like we're having a party every week. Like, it's like, what holiday can we celebrate this week? You know, like, so, and we do, and that's why my office also looks like a tornado hit because I got a lot of stuff from a lot of different cultures. And something that I do think about a lot is, you know, are you familiar with the iceberg model of culture? Like, above the ice.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you. So the idea is that culture is kind of like an iceberg because above the surface are the things you can see. So a lot of the things that we celebrate, even in International Students Club, are the things we can see. The clothing, you know, traditional clothing, holiday, getting food from somewhere else, decorating. Those are the visible signs of culture. But under the ice, under that water level, are all the things that we can't see, but that are so meaningful, right? Like, how do different cultures treat older people? You know, what are your ideas about loyalty and friendship? What, you know, all these kind of deeper emotions and deeper feelings. And, you know, sometimes those are the things that are a little bit harder to get to in kind of like a celebrating party, you know, way. So how do we also access those kind of deeper cultural experiences and understand those differences that are really meaningful in our interactions? And also that kind of I think that's part of why it's called an iceberg is like you can run into it. Like you can accidentally hit it. When you're having an intercultural exchange, you can bump into that that under the water stuff. And if you don't it helps to process it, to make meaning out of that after you've had that kind of cultural issue. I don't know.
So I now have an explanation for myself. It's called I am an iceberg. Because
we are all icebergs.
Well, but I feel like because for me, you cannot see the tip of my iceberg. My iceberg is almost underwater, right? Because I don't look like I don't wear clothing that's necessarily me from another country. I don't have an accent. Some people can catch my accent, but a lot of people don't realize that I am not like a native English speaker because I came so early. And so now I can, Eastern European, and we're known for being a little bit like harsher, I suppose, or like very honest about everything we say. And sometimes don't hold back and there's no filter. And now I can just say, well, I'm a nice person. My heart is like freezing cold.
It's like about understanding, it's about understanding why people do things. Like I remember when I was a new ESL teacher, a young ESL teacher, I remember a more experienced teacher telling me, Kathleen, you might have some students in your class who never smile at you. And that might be hard for you as a teacher because you're sort of used to people nodding, smiling, giving you feedback. And you might feel like those people are sitting there staring at you and they hate you, but they don't hate you. She said, just know this. They don't hate you. That's just how they are. Nothing's wrong. They could love your class. They could be very happy, but they're not going to smile and they're not going to give you that feedback. I mean, that was probably 25 years ago she told me that. And I think about it all the time because we can't always put our own expectations of what someone's behavior means. It doesn't mean they're unhappy. It still happens to me every year. I think I'm not getting that feedback, but they're totally fine. They're very happy. And maybe they're not expressing it how I would, but it doesn't have the same meaning. Does that make sense?
Totally, because sometimes people will be like looking at me going like, is it okay or whatever? And I'm like, no, I'm just paying attention to what you're saying. This is what I look like when I'm paying attention, and I'm interested in what you have to say. I'm not judging, which it feels like, because that's my face. I totally get that. And I think students actually sometimes feel judged by me in the classroom because I'm just listening and trying to process what they're saying, and then they feel like I'm not going like, oh yeah, this is great and whatever, because it's just not my person. That's my iceberg, people. It's my iceberg. And so it's not my personality to be like, oh yay, that's great and whatever. I just listen, and then we have a discussion.
Yeah.
And I think they feel sometimes that I'm not in agreement, and sometimes they're, I feel like, well, what did you think about this or this? And then they feel like I'm like mean or whatever, and I'm not being mean. I'm just trying to, but that's because I don't do that.
And smile
nod and smile and agree with everything that you're saying, and then tell you you're wrong. I just kind of tell you right off the bat. Hey, this is global education in the classroom.
I think that is global education in the classroom. And I think, the other thing that I think is really interesting that I tell students about culture too, it's we are more internet. Most people these days have a more global worldview because of social media, right? And because of, I don't know, media in general, things like that, right? So we know, if somebody does something that offends us, we can manage to not be offended by it. You know what I mean? So for example, students who told me, teacher, in my country, teachers do not sit on the desk or on the table. That's pretty rude, to do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I sit on the desk all the time. I
did not know that. Now I'm gonna have to.
I don't know. But now I don't sit on the desk. But actually, they were not offended by me sitting on the desk. They're an adult, they're a mature and international person, and they know different countries do things differently. We don't have to take offense or impose our own meaning on something if somebody sees things differently than us. I don't know.
I totally agree with you. I do want to talk a little bit about, you went to Costa Rica.
Sure. We had a grant through this U.S. Department of State, 100,000 Strong in the Americas. That was a grant that allowed us to partner with the University in Costa Rica that Harper has a memorandum of understanding with, where our former
I think we might need to explain to people what memorandum of understanding is between universities, because people say that, well, he's coming on next week, so he'll be talking about that. He'll explain it.
It's like a legal agreement that sort of formalizes, I guess, the relationship between two international institutions. So we were able to, through this grant, the part of the grant was to provide study abroad opportunities to students who traditionally would not have access to them. So to students who would be traditionally not included in the study abroad process, usually because of financial reasons, but some other reasons too. So because of the pandemic, this grant started with more virtual exchange in terms of meeting with classes. U.S. classes and Costa Rican classes were meeting online over a period of several months. And then the Costa Rican students came to visit the United States. And that was really a powerful moment because, for almost all of them, the Costa Rican students, it was their first time traveling abroad. They were able to meet face-to-face some of those students that they had talked to previously in the virtual exchange. And that was also really cool because some of the students who participated were from the adult education program too. And they were in some of the English language acquisition classes. So that's also a great opportunity for students who are coming from another country to recognize the diversity of the United States, right? That we have students who are from so many different backgrounds, just the diversity that we have linguistically, racially, by religion, all sorts of diversity. So that was a great experience. And then we took 5 students to Costa Rica for a week during spring break. And that was a very transformative experience. So for at least one student, it was their first time to be on a plane, to travel abroad, to see the ocean was the first time also. So that was that. And I think that really, it's amazing to see the students grow, right? Like to see them see themselves differently as they see themselves as someone who's been abroad, who's been on a plane, who's seen the ocean. And what else can I do? You know, there was a student who had not planned to transfer, who had planned to finish at Harper and be done with their education, who decided to transfer after this trip and continue their education for their bachelor's degree. And I think it's just a transformative experience for students see themselves as international, you know, participants in the international community. Yeah.
I think that I always wanted my kids to go on a study abroad. I went on a study abroad when I was in college.
Where did you go?
I went to Paris. I spent a year in Paris, and I did the au pair thing. I sat and I went to school. I sat with kids, with really one boy. His sister was 15, so I was there for, you know, girl talks, not for babysitting her. But the boy was like 10, so I would take him to his art class and whatever and stay with him after school while his parents were working. And then I went to the Sorbonne for you know, to study. And I wasn't even a French major. And I came back and they're like, you should major. I was not a good student. And they said, well, you know, French will take you. I'm like, what am I going to do with a French? I should have gotten a French degree. I stayed longer and got other degrees, not really important. But I think that going on any international study abroad type experience is just the most amazing thing that you can do for yourself. It is a self-growth. It is a seeing yourself adjust and seeing yourself cope with whatever you're uncomfortable with. I had been studying French at that point for 8 years, so junior high, so 2 years of junior high, 4 years of high school, 2 years of college. And I was like, what are you people saying?
It just does not sound the same in nature, right? Authentic.
It was uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable. We were there during the first Kuwait War or whatever. And so we were told, like, don't speak English around places, you know, it's dangerous, whatever. Like, I didn't really think much about it, let me tell you. But it's uncomfortable to be in a different place and worry that something might happen, just like it can happen anywhere. I understand that. But like there, it was particularly like acknowledged. So you're on the train, you're thinking that. Anybody's bags sitting around that you don't know what they are, because that's what we were told, like pay attention to what's on the trains, because they were worried about an attack like that. So those kind of experiences you will not get sitting in wherever you are at home. You need to go to places and be uncomfortable. But what you learn about yourself and how you deal with this uncomfortable is probably the best thing you can do for yourself, because then you just feel so much stronger for having gone through this experience and knowing how to deal with this experience. And then when it comes up again in some other situation, you're like, this is a piece of cake. I always tell people, living in the United States is the easiest life you can have. With all the things that we have here, like it's such a privilege to live here. It's so easy. You can live in other countries and they're great and, you know, you can get used to them. But the ease of living in the United States compared to anywhere else in the world does not compare, and you need to experience that.
And I think that's interesting because it makes me think about our students who come from other countries to live here. I mean, I think we do see a lot of them at Harper experiencing that discomfort, leaving their comfort zone, and also that growth. Because yes, I do think I 100% agree that living here, we have so many privileges. But for someone, for example, who doesn't drive, that, some of that goes away, right? Because you have to take a bus that comes once an hour or something like that. Maybe you're from a culture where things are done more collectively. It's not just like, oh yeah, here, solve this problem on your own. Go to this office and solve this problem on your own. It's like, we'll help you more. Where here, we do have in the U.S. very individualistic point of view, right? So some of our students are also experiencing that as international students, living here and attending Harper. So I think that's another kind of pleasure of International Students Club is seeing students really grow, like sometimes from not showing leadership or being quieter to really taking on more leadership responsibilities, or they're receiving that experience too. So
Yeah, I think it's really important to have the International Students Club. I think it's really important to give them that opportunity to ask each other even questions, how to navigate certain, experiences that they're having. How do you do this? How do you do that? That is really important in having that club. I think I just think it's really fantastic. Let's see. Last question, because we got to kind of wrap it up.
All right.
But what's your, you've been with the international students and you guys have had parties and food. What's your favorite international food or something that you've tried? They won't be offended. But
I have to say I think it's the top cuisine in the world is really Peruvian food. So shout out to Eric Bowman's wife, Leda. She is the best cook for Peruvian food. But one thing that I like about that cuisine is that it has a lot of international aspects too. It has a lot of Asian influence from people who lived there. And I just think their food is fantastic. Yeah.
All right, so Peruvian food wins. I've had some. I think I had it when we went to CCID.
Yeah,
and we went to a Peruvian restaurant. So delicious. Yeah. I mean, I am a foodie. Like I will eat almost. I'm not. Like I used to have a candy store. I think we did order chocolate covered ants once. I think I don't remember for sure, but that was conversation about that. We might have ordered them. I don't know if I ever tried them. But, so I'm like insects, unless I don't know it's insects. But I actually just read an article that insects are a really good protein source. So if they don't look like insects and they crumple them up and make them into powder, and it's really good for you.
It's like a good protein source, but it doesn't pollute or something, right? Like it's better for the environment.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right, so we're going to finish up. I'm going to do my end of the show, but Kathleen, we want to have you back. You can talk so much more about, we need to hear about your virtual exchanges in more detail and all of that. So it would be lovely if you come back. But this wraps up our episode today of Global Education Unpacked. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being patient today with all my figuring out of how to use everything. And thank you for sharing your passion, and you can tell really on the radio as well, and global perspectives with us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like us and follow us on Instagram at Global Ed Unpacked. You can also watch the recorded show on our YouTube channel at Global Education Unpacked, and you can listen to the audio version when I put them out there on your favorite podcast platform. Global Education Unpacked is recorded live at WHCM Radio at Harper College. It's produced by me, and the theme music is by DJ Double Dip. It's called Mint. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep exploring the world through education. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.